This documentary really shows the layers of people that it takes for corruption to work. We get to see a lot of people that are outright corrupt and a lot of people that are simply complicit, and we're given the strength by this story to be able to speak up at the right moment. So today we're reviewing Colective, which is a film made by Alexander Nanau, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. So Colective is a Romanian documentary that follows an unfortunate nightclub fire, or the aftermath of an unfortunate nightclub fire that happened in Romania. In the beginning of the film, we follow these investigative journalists who are looking into the conditions at hospitals that a lot of the burn victims from this fire are, the hospitals that they're in. And then from there, we make our way to the government, how the government treated people in the hospitals, how there's kind of a widespread corruption of the Romanian government and its relation to hospitals and the Ministry of Health. And without giving too much away, what did you think of Colective?
I really enjoyed this documentary. This is probably one of my favorite documentaries of the past 5 years, I'd say. What I love so much about this documentary is how authentically it displays the intersection between government, the press, and the public.
It's so seamless, isn't it? Like we start out, we have some of the acknowledgement of the victims, and we start out with the victims, and then we move our way quickly to the reporters. We stay with the reporters for a while, and then they start bringing in the new Minister of Health. And then we're juggling all of these people at once towards the end of the documentary, and we're checking in with reporters, victims, and the Ministry of Health. And it's showing you, how much all of these are interwoven together and how they affect one another. I think that the style of this documentary is really remarkable. I mean, people throw around this term fly on the wall a lot. This movie is fly on the wall. Like has unprecedented access to not only what's going on in, the world of investigative journalism in Romania, but also what's going on in the government itself and people that are in the government trying to make a difference against a system that really doesn't want them to make a difference.
I think that was the most relatable aspect of this documentary, is how a system is kind of broken and how it can't really even be fixed. Like, you try as you will, like there's these things that are just so wrong and would take so much time. And I mean, we do run into, when the Minister of Health is like replaced in this film, we do run into this guy that seems definitely much more authentic in trying to fix the system.
Sure, and he's a lot more transparent than the prior Ministry of Health, because the person we see at the beginning of the movie eventually resigns, and we have no documentarian access to what he's doing. But as soon as this new minister is appointed, the documentarians are allowed to follow him around and see what he's doing day to day. So it just shows how much more transparent that he is. I like too that this film has a lot of moments that are pretty crushing, especially in regards to how a government can affect its people, how the people that are high up in the government can be really indifferent towards the pain of the people that they're serving. But it also shows us the effects of good government. And it shows us what happens when the right person gets in the right position.
Yeah, I think going back to what you were saying about kind of like this unprecedented access of this documentary and how the previous Minister of Health, you didn't really see much of him. You kind of see little bits and pieces, but only when he's doing press conferences. Mm-hmm. And the new Minister of Health comes in.
And he seems like a jackass.
Sorry. No, he's terrible. He's horrible. And then you have this new Minister of Health, which is allowing them to come in. Then you see, more and more people give access to their side of the story, which whether it be people that work in the healthcare system, the Minister of Health, and those aspects of kind of transparency really make this documentary what it ends up being.
Yeah, and this documentary really shows the layers of people that it takes for corruption to work. And we get to see a lot of those people. We get to see a lot of people that are outright corrupt and a lot of people that are simply complicit. And we're given the strength by this story to be able to speak up at the right moment.
So back on that note of authenticity a little bit, is that I feel like this documentary, what I love so much about it is that it didn't really have some sort of agenda about it. I feel like it kind of started and then it kind of expanded just based on natural events that kind of occurred. And that's one of the things I love so much about it.
Yeah, it does feel so natural. Sorry to pick on probably one of the more popular political documentarians that there is, but Michael Moore films always kind of feel like, whether you agree with them or not, that they're kind of bending reality to fit whatever the agenda of the film is. Like, it feels like he starts with an idea, he starts with an agenda, and he makes a documentary around it instead of using the documentary to see what's actually true. So that's something I think that's so commendable about this. The New York Times actually had such a good article on this film that I want to just quote them and read the last couple lines of it, because I think it captures what's so good about this film so succinctly. And this is the reason that they're the New York Times and we're movie husbands, but that's perfectly fine. The arc of the moral universe may bend toward justice, but as Colective lays out with anguished detail and a profound, moving sense of decency, it takes stubborn, angry people, journalists, politicians, activists, artists, to hammer at that arc until it starts bending maybe in the right direction. So that's the last line of their review of this film, and obviously they really liked the film just as much as we did.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting saying that because, I mean, the name of this movie is called Colective, and that's in reference to the club where the fire broke out, but it also kind of symbolizes this kind of group and of people coming from different places, whether it's the press and the people that were affected, the victims, and the regular public, and you kind of need this group of people to come together to make this change. And this film, I think, ends on kind of both that positive and negative note of, move one step forward, walk two steps back.
Yeah, it just feels so urgent as a documentary, and it's so emotionally involving. I think a lot of people kind of, and I'm guilty of this because I don't watch enough documentaries, but a lot of people kind of falsely feel that documentaries are boring. This movie is not boring. This is like you're watching All the President's Men or Spotlight. It has that feeling of urgency and suspense. It's really great filmmaking.
Yeah, this movie has really a fast pace to it. It's pretty much, it starts out kind of like a walk, and then you kind of like pick up into like a jogging pace, and then all of a sudden you're running and you're racing the horses.
I know. But even when it ended, you said, I wish there were more.
I know. I was kind of waiting for more, and it just kind of ends. And
unfortunately, truthfully, that's where we're at right now, where it ends. So
yeah. So I think we're good. Do you want to go to our grades?
Sure. I give it an A. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's probably the best documentary I've seen in a couple years. The only other documentary I've seen this year that I loved was Dick Johnson is Dead, which is really good, and it's on Netflix. You should all watch it. But Colective is something else entirely. It has this importance that I think is rarely seen in documentaries, especially in political documentaries. You watch a lot of political documentaries that have this bent. They feel like they're pandering. This film is something else entirely. It's really good.
Yeah, I give this movie an A as well. I really love this documentary. I think what you were saying, kind of harking to that a little bit, is that this is such an authentic made documentary. I don't think this documentary really has an ideology about it. I feel like it's just kind of experiencing what's happening and letting you kind of infer your own judgments from watching it.
So that's our review of Colective. It is now available to rent on VOD for whatever service you use. And if you like this review, please subscribe and like this video, and we will see you next time.